Welcome everyone back to Spoiler Warning, featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We are, of course, as always, going to be talking wrestling today. It's a bit of a warm day, so I do apologise if you can hear a fan in the background, but I genuinely can't turn it off. I'm going to boil alive with the amount of lighting and equipment that is in this room right now. Our top story will be the return of Roman Reigns and what the plans were for Seth Rollins until that return happened. So I want to say a massive welcome to everyone who's already here and already in the chat. I can see questions which we will definitely be referring to later on in the news. Let's go through our headlines so everyone knows what's going to be happening. We're talking Seth Rollins and the briefcase, as well as the future focus on Bron Breakker. We're going to be talking AJ Styles and his announcement for Slammiversary. We're going to be talking LA Knight and what's next for his push. Jacob Fatu and what's next for his. Rave reviews for Evolution. An AEW signing, particularly a former NXT woman. We're going to be talking about what the plan was for Roman Reigns at SummerSlam and what that plan has now evolved to with the injury to Seth Rollins. We're going to be talking the Women's Tag Team Championships, Karrion Kross and Goldberg, as well as a little bit on what has changed with Becky Lynch and the Women's Intercontinental Championship. This creates a number of opportunities for a number of different people. So, we are of course going to start with our top story, which is as regards Seth Rollins. The WWE have a lot of options available to them when it comes to this. Seth Rollins' injury essentially means that they're going to have to assess him and work out whether they need to vacate the briefcase. There's a number of different options on the table, including Paul Heyman holding on to it, which is what we've seen so far on Monday Night Raw. For now, Seth Rollins is keeping the briefcase. So for now, Seth Rollins is keeping the briefcase, but there are a number of different options that are available to the WWE if they want to make changes. One of the most prominent ones is keeping it with Paul Heyman and essentially allowing a Bron Breakker or a Bronson Reed to cash in using it. There are also rumours that the injury might not be completely legitimate. Now, to my knowledge, it is completely legitimate. I've seen plenty of reporting already seriously questioning this, but it's mostly Wrestling Observer, who, to be blunt, I don't believe anyone would trust the Wrestling Observer with something such as this. I don't believe for a moment that anyone would trust the Wrestling Observer with this particular piece of news. So, for now, Seth Rollins has kept the briefcase. He has been assessed, so whatever is going to happen will be announced on Monday, during Monday Night Raw. We're waiting until that point, but the focus right now, and in fact the focus before Seth Rollins was injured, was on Bron Breakker. We very much saw that during the Gauntlet match. Bron Breakker is someone that the WWE has decided will get pushed regardless of the situation, and Seth Rollins has been endeavouring to improve that situation and increase the chances of doing so. That's what's going on with Seth Rollins. Next up, we will be talking AJ Styles, but I want to catch up with the chat before we do so. I can see Liam's dropped a hell of a lot of stuff in the chat about reporting and what is expected, so I'll get to that. Sledgehammer says, howdy all, welcome. Sledgehammer, welcome. Erin as well says, hello everyone, hope you all have had a good day. Marcel dropping chat rate, thank you very kindly. Marcel, I can see you've gained a crown. Now, I don't know what that means, but I believe, based on what's happening afterwards, Sai has let me know. We have 58 people in the YouTube, 16 likes. Quickly check if you've hit that thumbs up, please. Liam says, multiple people within WWE reportedly claimed that the plan was to do a Seth Rollins injury angle at Saturday Night Main Event and have him return at SummerSlam during Gunter versus CM Punk. Source Wrestling Observer, thank you as always for sourcing. This for me gives this rumour an end date, because one way or the other we will definitely know by SummerSlam whether Seth Rollins is injured or whether it's all it's all been kayfabe. Let's just say that. Let's avoid the F word. Whether it's all been kayfabe. It gives us a lovely end date for that. Liam also mentions Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu blood for blood in a steel cage match is planned for SummerSlam 2025. I believe that was originally WrestleVotes who reported that one. Bailey says, what can we all do to help get Tom over the 10k plateau for YouTube subscribers? Fair question, Bailey, and I appreciate you for it. The quickest way you can help me with that is with lots of chatting. Lots of chatting, particularly amongst yourselves, guarantees more people will find this show. Obviously, pressing that thumbs up making donations does help as well. But when it comes to the engagement and the growth of the channel, the fastest way you can support it is to chat between yourselves, to react to what we're saying, to answer questions. So with this in mind, I'll ask you a question, a simple question, nothing more. Is Seth Rollins injured? Do you believe Seth Rollins is injured or not? Liam says, advertised for SmackDown tonight, John Cena and Cody Rhodes contract signing for SummerSlam, Rey Fenix and Andrade versus Motor City Machine Guns versus Fraxian versus DIY, a fatal 4-way tag team championship #1 contenders match, and what a mouthful that was. Thank you as always, Liam, for bringing in so much news. Ooh. He's really dropped it all. Nikki Bella mentioned she will have one more run that will be 9 days around SummerSlam, similar to Evolution 2 promotional week. That's via Nikki and Bree's show. Liam says Jey Uso versus Bronson Reed was reportedly originally planned for SummerSlam. It was, more on that later. And says WWE reportedly has plans to position Ripley, Fatu and Breaker to be the next top stars for the company. I would be stunned if anyone reported different. That is clearly exactly what is happening. Now I just want to quickly skip forwards with the chat because Corey, thank you very kindly, a very generous donation, $20. Says, all right, Tom, putting you on spot, next big star to jump from AEW to WWE, in your opinion? It depends. First and foremost, thank you very kindly for that. Please be sure to hit that thumbs up on Corey's donation. It depends what you clarify as top star, or big star I should say, because I do feel there is a strong and increasing possibility that MJF will be the next big star to come over to the WWF, but there are plenty of stars along the way that I think could make it but aren't necessarily MJF's level. So yeah, that's what I think on that one. Thank you as always, Corey, a very generous donation, $20 US. I appreciate you very kindly for that. Do apologize, still not 100%. Ooh. Ashley says hi, welcome Ashley. Marcel says, what do you think is a match, Roman versus Braun or Roman and Jey versus Braun and Bronson? I do have news on this and I'll be reporting it shortly. Mr. X says, will WWE main roster superstars appear at TNA pay-per-view? Yes, they will. And says, I do not believe Rollins is injured. Cecil says, hi everyone. Ray says, there was a video package at the end of TNA last night, had AJ Styles a box open and showed a bit of AJ Styles match, showed his log, AJ Styles returning to TNA at Slammiversary this Sunday. More on that shortly. Sid says, Karrion Kross says his pitch is to be the most vile character being rejected by WWE. More on that shortly. Roy says, Ric Flair cancels Atlanta Comic Con appearance due to personal and health related issues. I'm not surprised. The man is ancient and for some reason still going. Paul says, Jazz has officially signed with TNA to be a backstage agent and producer. Azza, thank you for the question. Thank you, Sai, for responding to it. I actually was not aware about this. This is very interesting. Apparently, thank you, Sai, for giving us the details here, there's a new YouTube feature where you get a score depending on how often you're chatting, which is why I'd imagine we've got the whole top fan thing going. If you guys want a chat rate, you go right ahead. You've got options. Spam, compete. I ain't going to tell no one off for it. You go right ahead. Pardon me. Rickan says, you were right about AJ showing up in TNA. He's been asking for it for a long time. Sean says, hello, Tom. Welcome, Sean. And Sai says, hi, Tom. And chat. Welcome, Sai. Good to see you, mate. Hope you're good. Valencia says, hi, Tom, and hi, everyone. Welcome, Valencia. KJ says, what's up, Tom? What's up, KJ? Joey says, hey, Tom. Are they setting up a Roman versus Braun Breaker match at SummerSlam? More on that shortly. Michael says, hi, Tom. Welcome, Michael. And Drive-By says, hi, Tom. We likely will see Roman go away right after SummerSlam as filming for Street Fighter starts in Australia in August. Yes, that is the most likely scenario. Cal says, hey Tom, hope you're well. Doing very well, thank you, Cal. Welcome to the show. Francis says, the Wire 6 heels or baby faces? At the moment, they are neither. It depends on what the fans want, essentially. Anthony says, good afternoon, Tom. Good afternoon to you too. Heather says, any chance they do a show Evolve NXT TNA pay-per-view? No. KJ says, was the plan, so is it still happening? The injury angle happened regardless if it's real or fake, but that report makes no sense. As I say, they've given us a dedicated end date, so we will find out. Mr. X says, will Chris Jericho return to WWE this year? No. Michael says, if Seth's injury is kayfabe, he did a hell of a job selling it. I absolutely agree. Noob says, hello, Mr. Colohue. How are you doing today? Doing very well, thank you, Noob. Welcome to the show. Hector says, I might have to catch this Slammiversary pay-per-view. A lot of good matches on the card, and to be honest, if AJ is there, I need to hear that OG TNA song one more time before he retires. It's a classic. I don't want to accidentally OJAJ. So yes, not been here in years. Welcome back. Good to see that the show is still making appearances in everyone's feed. Sean says, who do you see winning between Indy Hartwell versus Tessa Blanchard, and the winner takes all between JC Jane and Masha Slamovich? Tessa Blanchard and JC Jane. Cal says, how long do you think the Wyatts will have the belts for? Longer than you'd think, but not as long as you want. KJ says, sub if you're new, or else I'll paint your toenails in your sleep. Some people might like that, mate. Some people might like that. Though that said, if you are new, be sure to subscribe. We do shows every Monday and every Friday, and hopefully you'll quite enjoy them. It's an interesting compliment here, so I'll absolutely take it. Bailey thinks that Seth is injured, as does Rabbit. Noob says the injury is real. Cecil says yes, he is injured. Sid says Roman Reigns returns to set up a major SummerSlam tag team match. CM Punk. Not sure why there was a mention of CM Punk there. Backward says yes, he is injured. Marcel agrees, yes. Khalid says hi, Tom May. Welcome, Khalid. Valencia says yes, I think he's injured. Erin says I think he's injured. That first moment afterwards said a lot, in my opinion. Everything I've been told is that yes, he is indeed injured, and that the Wrestling Observer talking out their arse. Mr. X says, what happened to Alexa in Wyatt 6? As I reported at the time, there was no intention for Alexa to return and immediately rejoin the Wyatt 6. They are going to build towards it slowly. They have other storylines in play. Joey says, I feel like they need a big surprise for SummerSlam. Maybe faking Seth's injury is a way to do it. Possibly, but when it comes to big surprises, Triple H, not a fan. He's not a fan. Cecil is asking how many people in the chat are from the USA. Give us a shout out of where you're from, guys. And lots of chat rate from Marcel and Bailey Davis. Welcome. Sid says Lyra and Bailey killed it. Again, Lyra versus Becky at SummerSlam. If it's anything like their last two matches, it could be the moment that finally puts Lyra over the top. I would also like to point out there was one men's match on Raw. One. And I didn't miss the men at all. Michael says MJF has WWE written all over him. Noob also quite rightly saying Rhea Ripley's already a top star. Ah, gotcha. Corey says Mariah level or Britt Baker. I stand by MJF. I also think it's possible we see one last Moxley run as Moxley. Calvin says, hey Tom, Hotu vaccine. Any updates on my theories not on TV? I hope it's for a revamp. It is for a revamp. They are considering his position and trying to work out something that relaunches his storyline. Sledgehammer says if Seth isn't injured, they certainly sold it with the ending of the last match. Cal says I'm shocked Drew isn't challenging for a belt at SummerSlam. As many belts as there are other people already heavily involved, and Drew McIntyre can certainly take a little time outside of that particular spotlight. Certainly, with Randy Orton already doing so, it works for me. Sean says, Wrestling Observer is also saying Alexa versus Charlotte has been planned for SummerSlam, and they also said Becky versus Bailey was the plan for SummerSlam, but plans were changed to Becky versus Lyra. More on that shortly. Dan says, hoping Seth's not injured, both because that would be awful, but the way he was handled at Saturday Night Main Event would be a nice evolution of a kayfabe injury with the called audible finish. Joey says, do you think Cross re-signed with the amount of TV time he's been getting recently? More on that shortly. And Sean says, Charlotte is facing Raquel on SmackDown tonight, and Stephanie Vaquer is facing Alba Fire. Cecil says, what is the Y6 doing tonight, if anything? Thoughts? They are sitting back and watching the other tag teams fight it out for them. Sai says if they bring Seth back as a surprise, they risk turning him huge babyface, especially after an injury angle. It depends whom he would be cashing in on. CM Punk is, after all, CM Punk. Joey says, is Bailey being pushed out of the feud with Becky already? More on that shortly. Marcel says, question for everyone and for you, Tom. What are your two main event matches for SummerSlam? My expectation is that the main event of night 1 will be the World Heavyweight Championship, and the main event of night 2 will be the WWE Championship. As much as I would love to have the Women's World Championship main event, I don't see that happening, especially after, hey, we let the women main event Evolution. And yes, I know how ridiculous that is. That's what I'm saying. Ooh. Bad Boys says, did you not think Alexa will be dropping Lily soon because she has Charlotte as a friend? No, Lily is there to sell. Yeah, to sell. Mr. X says, will Liv Morgan return as a face and against Dom Dom? The WWE considering a huge face push for Liv when she returns. Jan says Becky versus Bayley was supposed to be scheduled for SummerSlam. WWE changed it to Becky versus Lyra. I think they're saving it for post SummerSlam. More on that shortly. Just Ken says, I love the idea of the Wyatts holding the belts for a month or so. I'm a huge fan of the belts changing hands that often so others get opportunities. Ray says, I think Masha Slamovich will win against JC Jane. Wants to say, Tom, I agree with you that TK not signing every ex-WWE talent is good, but the fact that he hasn't brought back Cora Jade is mind-boggling. Still haven't seen him bring back AEW talent that left. There is a number of people involved that Tony Khan wants to sign that are currently actively in negotiations. Valencia says, do you think there's any chance Samoa Joe could return to WWE? Yes, Triple H definitely wants to make that happen. Juan says, yes, he is injured. Bailey says, Tommy, are you surprised to see CM Punk in a coat and tie at WWE corporate events? He seems comfortable in the role. He has no other options. The offer from TNA was lucrative, but it wasn't what he wanted. He knows how to play the role now. Calvin says, I'm really hoping Theory returns Monday and knocks out Waller. Chris says, Stevie Richards on his YouTube channel said that Seth's injury was done on the Swanton and the moonsault to his feet popped the knee, and Seth has confirmed this in a recent appearance. That is indeed the case. Ken says, Vaca versus Alba will quite literally be fire. See you, Calvin. Good to see you, mate. As it says, any main roster plans for the Don? Do you mean Dom? You mean Dominic Mysterio? Sid says, for what we've been through for 9 months with Moxley taking that TV show to the depths of terrible, and maybe in the minority here, but that was incredible. Everything was very fitting. I wouldn't say it's been terrible, certainly. Mr. X says, will Joe Hendry be next year a WWE superstar? I suspect he'll be this year a WWE superstar. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate you for that. Hector says, if for the most part WWE talents are going over on TNA talents, other than exposure, what could TNA be getting out of this relationship? Is there a chance WWE could help them secure a better TV deal? Yes, essentially. Appreciate that, Cecil. It's just a very busy period. I'll be trying to get back to it as soon as I can. Sean says Lily is top-selling merchandise. She won't be going away anytime soon. Paul says, I was surprised that Dustin Rhodes won the TNA title at All In. It was part of the deal to him to re-sign. As I says, why is Dom not defending? Seems like they can't make mid-card titles relevant. So a couple of things. He has been carrying a few knocks, but also the intention was for it to be Finn Balor, and that just hasn't really happened. Michael says, going to an AEW show tonight in Cleveland, the Lena, that being Lena Black, was pulled from due to a family emergency and was pulled from a GCW show tomorrow. Now you have me curious if she's AEW bound. Oh, AIW. AIW, got it. Bailey says, which of these two have a realistic chance at upper card status, Carmelo Hayes or Montez Ford? Both. Absolutely, both. Got you, Azza. I hope there's a call-up coming for him soon because he's done everything he can in NXT. Drive-by says, any thoughts on who might be involved in War Games this year? Jacob Fatu, Solo Sikoa. You got to do it. You got to do it. Backward says, how's the house coming along, Tom? Doing better. You may notice that there's been more paint. It's still not consistent paint, but it's more paint, which is an improvement. Sean says, I don't know if Cora should go to AEW. She may get lost in the shuffle. True of anyone. Ken says, I agree. I think she would benefit most from TNA. JJ just chants Roman Reigns. Mr. X is asking, will we ever see Omos on WWE TV? Yes. At the Royal Rumble. As always. The only time we see him. AJ Styles has signed a new WWE contract. I can now confirm he has signed a new deal with the WWE. Fairly lucrative, but only as lucrative as his previous deal. It was not a significant jump upwards when it comes to his overall paycheck, but he has got what he really wanted out of it, which was permission from WWE to make TNA appearances. He's essentially said to WWE that he wants to put TNA on his back and do what he can to ensure that they get the attention that he feels that they deserve. I suspect AJ Styles will be losing quite a few matches in TNA, and I also suspect he will be winning the Intercontinental Championship and defending it in TNA. AJ Styles has signed a new contract with the WWE, which allows him to work with TNA. I'm expecting to see him at Slammiversary, as has been announced, and beyond. And beyond. Tony says, according to reports, WWE is trying to make Charlotte a babyface. That's me. I reported that. In the end of this partnership, Alexa turning heel. What are your thoughts on that? Don't see it. I don't see it. I think for a little while they'll both be baby faces. The intention is to ensure that Charlotte is cheered. If you've watched Evolution, you know that was very much what WWE was going for, and she did indeed get cheered. WWE will continue to strike while the iron is hot before moving towards championships for Alexa Bliss. WWE's focus on LA Knight is said to have come to an end. The WWE did ensure that he got the Seth Rollins feud, however nothing major is said to be planned for SummerSlam. So at the moment, when it comes to LA Knight, his push for the year has concluded. We will still see him featured, however pushing towards championships, pushing against people like Roman, like Seth, pushing against Jacob Fatu, that just isn't likely anymore. Creative are trying to come up with some new ideas to push LA Knight, but at the moment, he will fall into the background a little more. Contrary to this, the WWE are planning some major events and a major push for Jacob Fatu. He's already got the United States Championship, but the focus between him and Solo Sikoa is not where this one ends. Jacob Fatu will be a key feature of WWE programming for years to come, and I've been told when it comes to the United States Championship, it is the first of many championships that the WWE plan to push him towards. So a big push is coming Jacob Fatu's way, and WWE believe he could potentially have a popularity that rivals Roman Reigns. Ken says, the most important question, will he return to TNA with his Get Ready to Fly theme? To my knowledge, they still have the rights to it. Joey says, do you see Charlotte and Alexa winning the tag titles of how over the team is? Yes, I do. More on that shortly. As I says, any chance Enzo makes it on NXT again? No. Michael says, Tony Khan needs to sign Dakota in roughly 13 days. Roughly, I'm still not counting. KJ says there's a deal for AJ 1 year long like Sapp reported. I've not heard details as to the length of the deal, but Sean Ross Sapp did report that AJ had signed, and I've only just been able to confirm it. So I would suggest what Sean Ross Sapp and Fightful Selective reported is accurate, based on the fact that they did have the news ahead of me, certainly. JJ says hopefully they don't put LA Knight back on SmackDown to feud with Solo. That is true boredom. Michael Winston says, do you know how WWE higher-ups feel about Damian Priest? Thanks, Tom. Thank you, Michael, for the question. When it comes to Damian Priest, there's a lot of excitement about him. However, while he was pushed to the top championship or to a top championship, the WWE have struggled to maintain focus on him. In fact, when it comes to WrestleMania, it was largely Drew McIntyre who was ensuring focus, and creative are currently struggling a little to work out what to do with Damian Priest. Mark Haskell, thank you very kindly for subscribing on the YouTube side. If you're not already subscribed, please do check, ensure that you are. Thank you for all the likes on the TikTok side, day one-ish. Appreciate you. And Mr. X says, will Belair turn on Jade Cargill? I suspect she will, yes. Ross says, evening Tom, back to the start. Hope you've had a good week. Evening Ross, good to see you mate. I have indeed, and hopefully you have too. Bailey says, unfortunately for LA Knight, I see him in the same category as Drew McIntyre. They're not going to get that title push. Dub says, any news on drafts and NXT call-ups? The NXT call-ups, as they decided, were simply too good to ignore. All came up after WrestleMania. There are a couple of people they have lined up to potentially join after SummerSlam, but they're also still trying to work out when the best date is for the draft. I suspect we're not going to see a draft this year. Triple H, as I've mentioned, is not really a fan of the whole brand split concept. Joey says their plans to move LA Knight away from SmackDown in the future. They are considering all options at the moment as to how creative can potentially use him. Sid, I wasn't there for that one. I keep hearing about it, but I've never seen it. As I said, Drew McIntyre seems to have gone flat. Why is that? Primarily because he's not competing for championships anymore. That's basically it. The CM Punk feud is fantastic, but it was both Drew McIntyre and CM Punk that made it happen. JJ says, do you think Austin Theory will be the face of the company in the future? Because a lot of people are saying that. They shouldn't be. He's not going to be. Cecil says, Chat and Tom, would you be more excited at this point for Rock and Roman or Roman and Jacob? I think I'd rather Jacob and Roman. Thoughts? Cecil? Absolutely agree. I would love it if The Rock would stay the hell away from WWE. That's my take, and I stand by it. And he said a lot of people are upset that Asuka lost on Raw this week. I'm going to say this now. Asuka fans want Triple H to be head of creative and wanted Vince out of creative, so they have to deal with it. Yeah, your favourite is not always going to win. True, Juan. Tony Storm knows what she's doing. Joey, I'd expect Tony D'Angelo is currently having options pitched to him. They just got to make it actually happen. Ray says, I think Natalya would be perfect, have a run in TNA knockout division. Do you agree? Yes, I do, with her experience. Eric says, is Don's injury legit? Because it seems like even Adam is skeptical. Hector says, Steve Macklin has an open invitation for his title at SummerSlam and teases on X that he hopes someone phenomenal challenges him. I kind of suspect AJ might be winning that one. Rocky says, Charlotte is the woman who once already destroyed Lily. If that is possible, she finishes Lily chapter again, or this time Alexa takes revenge on that. At the moment, the plan is for them to be a tag team. Roy says, would you like to see Leon Slater in WWE? I think he's very talented, and I'd be interested to see where his future goes. However, not everyone needs WWE to get to the next level. Marcel says, do you see Roman versus Cena in this last run or not? Yes, I do. And Michael says, at this point, if you're not a Samoan, you're not going to be the future face of the WWE. Backwards says, The Rock versus Roman should have happened years ago. I personally think it's too late to do that match, which I think is fair. And JJ says, I don't want The Rock near WWE. Guy doesn't know how to follow up on any storylines. We have 88 people currently watching on YouTube, only 35 likes. Please do check if you've hit that thumbs up. It means more than 50 of you have not yet done so, so if you're able to, I do appreciate it. Evolution 2 received rave reviews, and many inside and outside of the WWE are considering it the best PLE of the year so far by the WWE. This has convinced WWE that they need to make Evolution a regular part of the calendar, and it does beg the question, how many Saturday night main events are we going to have? Because WWE might be pairing them together in future. Stephanie McMahon is said to also be pushing hard to make this happen. She's been working with the WWE for a number of years again now under Triple H, and she's the one who's been pushing for Evolution. We will see more of her in the weeks to come. Also, as regards AEW, backstage at All In for a contract negotiation was Priscilla Kelly, formerly known as Gigi Dolan. I'm told that AEW have made an offer and she is expected to sign imminently. Priscilla Kelly, formerly known as Gigi Dolan in WWE, expected to join AEW. Right, catch up with the chat again. Cecil wants to see Cena end with Gunter. There are reports on that. As I said, do you feel there's a fine line between staying in NXT and going to the main roster too long? Seem to get lost in the mix. True. There's a lot of people who hated NXT 2.0, but it was designed that way to ensure that people in NXT are ready for the call-up. Now, Triple H likes people to work from lower down when they get called up. I think that's been helping people like Carmelo Hayes to avoid sort of the pressure and the spotlight. But it does mean that people seem to give up a little faster. Marcel says, who do you all want to see as Cena's last opponent? You guys know my opinion on this. I want Cena to lose to Jacob Fatu. WrestleFacts believes that Seth will cash in the Punk Gunter match. Mr. X says, is Chavo Guerrero back at WWE? Hope he's feuding against Dirty Dom. No, he is not. No, he's not. I'm just Ken says I both like the idea of Evolution being a regular thing and dislike it because I feel like the reason Evolution 2 is so good is because it's been so long since we had one. I don't think that's unfair. And Backwards says, do you think Cena will lose the WWE title before his last match? No, personally I think he will lose the WWE title during his last match, which is why I suspect come around Royal Rumble time, when he actually finishes up, he will be teasing extending and then he won't. Thank you, WrestleFacts, for following on the TikTok side. Appreciate you for that. For those that don't know, I have both TikTok and YouTube live as we speak. TikTok is typically for short form content that WWE produce and that is fan-made content. On YouTube, I keep it to the lives and the videos. So if you're interested in things like that, be sure to follow on both. Appreciate you, Azza. I try my best to make sure everyone gets answers. Everyone asks a question anyway. And yeah, sometimes we do get a bit busy, but I try my best. Joey says, why does WWE bother doing Saturday night main events since most of the show is filled with commercials? Because it's on YouTube and they just earn money from it and people can watch it after the fact. Mohammed Raza says, Charlotte vs. Alexa was listed for SummerSlam, source Wrestling Observer. Thank you for sourcing. On a list 3 weeks ago, do you think Liv's injury led to a change in plans and then becoming a team? More on that shortly. And Mr. X says, is Matt Cardona unlikely to go back to WWE? He's made it clear to the WWE that he's interested. They've made it clear to him that they are not. Roman Reigns has now returned. The original plan for Roman Reigns at SummerSlam was a match against Bron Breakker. It was not a match against Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins would have been expected to essentially get the night off or be in Bron Breakker's corner alongside Paul Heyman. They would be building towards a longer term feud, and chances are all 3 members of Seth Rollins' faction would have beaten Roman down to write him off for the filming of Street Fighter. At this moment, the most likely scenario is Roman Reigns and Jey Uso versus Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. The WWE are concerned that with Jey Uso no longer the champion, his star has begun to wane. So pairing him with Roman Reigns and ensuring that he gets a match at SummerSlam is their way of keeping him hot when he's not necessarily competing for any belts. WrestleFacts asks if Dominic will retain at SummerSlam or are WWE expecting a new IC champion. I wouldn't be too surprised to see a new IC champion, but if AJ Styles does win a championship at Slammiversary, I think they might only go with the one rather than the two. As I've said, AJ Styles is likely to make numerous appearances in TNA. I could see a world in which he takes the IC title with him and defends it on TNA programming, because AJ does want to ensure a lot of focus on TNA. Oh, hi Alice, welcome. Cecil's got me on 2 devices, show off. Bailey says, I'd like to see Cena lose the title with 5 or 6 days left, finish as a face, challenging and losing to Jacob Fatu in his last match. Sid says, who do you think will be better in Street Fighter, Roman or Cody? I think Cody is perfect casting. I don't know who Akuma is. He wasn't in the one with Raul Julia. That's all I know. Currently planned at SummerSlam, I can confirm Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss versus Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez. The Tag Team Championship match will likely see the championships change hands, and we'll continue to see a focus on Judgment Day until we get to that point. I cannot confirm at this point that there was a plan for Charlotte Flair versus Alexa Bliss, but I can state that there was not a plan for a Tag Team Championship match until Liv Morgan picked up her injury. A little bit on Karrion Kross now. Karrion Kross has not signed a new deal with the WWE. He wants the darker character. He's now stating that the WWE is not allowing him to do that. He wants his name back. He wants the name Killer Kross, not Karrion Kross. He believes that he is being hamstrung and limited by WWE on his intentions for a darker character. He is constantly pitching different ideas to WWE, and his creative ideas are not being listened to. Next up, news on Goldberg. The WWE are of the opinion that Goldberg right now, in complaining about his send-off, is actively embarrassing himself. WWE believe that he is trying to convince them to give him yet another match, to start all over again with the sign-off, and to get him back on WWE TV. There are rumours now as well that he's reached out to AEW. From what I can tell, Goldberg is just not going to be satisfied under any circumstances with any sign-off that he gets. Ginger Knight says, good evening, catching up from the beginning at 1.5 speed and chat rate. Thank you, Ginger Knight, appreciate you. I can also confirm that yes, the WWE have chosen to pivot away from the original planned match at SummerSlam between Becky Lynch and Bayley, which I've been reporting since April. it's nice to see Wrestling Observer confirming my report. The move to feature Lyra Valkyria more prominently was a move chosen by Bayley and reinforced by Becky. Both Becky and Bayley are really enjoying working with Lyra Valkyria and are very eager to ensure that she gets the push that they feel she deserves. The WWE are absolutely thrilled with the reaction to her so far, thrilled with the reception to her intro, to her promos, to her wrestling, and believe that she has an incredible talent. Both of the horsewomen are eager to ensure that she gets that focus, as in fact are most of the veterans at the moment, trying to ensure that the next generation is not just coming through, it's hitting the ground running. Alex says, Tom, what will happen with Dominic when Liv comes back? He's going to get beat up. Again. King Azar says, Tom, do you see Roman losing at SummerSlam against Bron Breakker? Again, I see a tag team match. WrestleFact says, how often do you go live on TikTok? Spoiler warning is live on both YouTube and TikTok every Monday and every Friday at 10 o'clock UK time. That is 5 p.m. EST in the US. As I said, do you think they can turn SmackDown into an NXT show? No. Michael says, per Fightful Select, producers, talent and a number of staff are being told that Rollins' injury is legitimate, but there isn't a real solid detail on how long he could be out. That's the situation as I reported it on Monday. Ken says, Goldberg is going to be like Flair and will compete until he can't anymore, which is sad because I was actually a fan of his until his run before this last appearance. Michael says, continuing from Fightful Select, thank you for sourcing and for bringing this in. Most everyone agrees that Rollins has some sort of injury, but there isn't a lot known on when he actually sustained it or if it was worked on Saturday night main event. Backward says, I love how supportive and helpful Becky Lynch and Bayley are towards the women's division. And Juan says, didn't Goldberg throw TK under the bus? In a major way, yes. However, he's done that to everyone in WWE as well. Still got a deal. Hector says, according to Meltzer on a recent Wrestling Observer radio episode, one of the reasons AEW went so long of All In was that they didn't want to feel like they were being bullied by WWE and their counter-programming. I can confirm that is true. Eric says, good evening, Tom. Does that mean that Kabuki Warriors aren't going to be at SummerSlam for the Women's Tag Team Championships? There's always a possibility, but I do believe it will be a 2-on-2. Ray, I will never care about the opinions of Vince Russo. As I said, will Bayley eventually get a title run? I mean, she did have one fairly recently, but we'll wait and see what actually happens there, because at the moment she doesn't seem to want one. And that is our news and that is our show. We've been live for 40 minutes. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone for joining us. We will be back live once again on Monday. Until then, thank you very much everyone for joining me. I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.